So now, as we have the contract deployed to the mainnet, we can actually work with verifying the contract code. Because as we mentioned in the previous lesson, it is super important to make sure that your users, the users of your contract, know exactly what is going to happen with their funds once they're going to send it into the contract's address. So as you can see on the Explorer now, our code is not verified. But let's see an example of a verified sources. So we can see that we can do something. So our contract is actually showing the code of it. So anybody who wants to read the logic can easily go ahead and read it. How do we do that? Very important thing that happened in Ton recently is that we got the Ton verifier. So as you can see, we got a new service called Ton Verifier. And this service is used for you to upload your source code. And your source code is going to be compiled. Code cell will be formatted. And the hash of this cell will be the proof that the code didn't change, basically. And this code and this hash cell is later on stored in the decentralized way. So any explorer can actually retrieve the source code and be sure that the code didn't change before they actually retrieved it. So there is no someone who is guaranteeing the code consistency, because we don't need that. We actually have it in a decentralized way, and there is a registry that is controlled by a number of guys. So there is no centralized control on it. So a number of guys can confirm that your code is actually unchanged. So what we're going to do now is we are going to connect our wallet here, because we will need to upload our code here, and we will need to deploy the transaction of storing it in the decentralized way in IPFS or other service that is used under the hood. So we are going to use Tonkeeper this time. This is done for the sake of you getting familiar with more wallets. And we will also going to use Tonkeeper in the next few lessons. So it is a good idea for you to install Tonkeeper. And at the moment, Ton Verifier is working on the mainnet. And this is why we want to test in the real life how this is happening. And you usually do this only once when you deploy the final contract. So you don't need to worry about spending money on that, because this is something similar to buying a SSL certificate, let's say. So you actually just pay for the transaction of providing the chain with data about your contract, so explorers could actually retrieve this code. So we're going to connect our wallet. I'm scanning the QR code with the mainnet Tonkeeper wallet. I authorize the Ton Verifier to request me for transactions. So now let's get the address of our contract. As you remember, we deployed it to the mainnet. Let's put our address here. And we can see that it's not verified, obviously. So what we can do, so now we would need to provide Ton Verifier with the source code or with the FANCI code of our contract. So we are heading to our project folder. And here we find the contracts. So we provide the main FC file. And one more file we'll need to provide. Yeah, let's actually compile it. It says that it cannot find the import stdlib FANCI. So obviously we will have to also provide the stdlib that we're using here. And here we could specify the directory. Great. So we could actually compile it now. Yeah, the hash matches on-chain contract, and it's now ready to publish. So we are going to click publish. And now it's asking me in the wallet, is asking me for confirming a transaction. Just like I said, It will cost me a little bit. It's asking me for 0.5 tons. And now we are actually waiting for the transaction to get on chain. Great. So our verification is published. We can click View Verified Contract. And we can see that now we have verified source code. So you remember the code we were writing? It is now available here. So anybody who wants to ever interact with our contract actually can just see the source code. This service also provides us with the ability to run the getter methods. So we can run the getter methods, balance is 0, storage data, so 0, 0. Great, but as you remember, we wanted it to show as a verified contract also on the explorers. So as you can see now, we have verified sources. And it takes a few more minutes to actually distribute the code. As I mentioned, the code is stored in a distributed way, in a decentralized way. So after a few moments, we will also see here that our code is going to be available for reading. So let's check one more explorer. It is called Ton API. And in this explorer, we're going to put address as well. And we're going to see the button source code now. Yes, here it's already distributed. So we can see that our code is available here in the explorer. So all the users are now able to actually read the source code. Great. So as I've said, sometimes it takes a few moments to distribute, but we can see the proof of that on another explorer too. Great. So we have our contract verified now, and we're ready to create a front end to interact with our contract. But we did this mainnet deployment only for the sake of showing how it would work in the real life with a real project. However, because we are going to test a lot in the chapter where we're going to create front end for this contract, we actually should also deploy this contract to the testnet. So this is so easy to do it, as you remember from the previous lesson. And let's do it. Yarn, blueprint, run. So it is going to ask me which network I want to deploy it to. So I'm choosing testnet. I'm going to choose the Ton Connect compatible wallet because we are going to work with Ton Connect to actually authorize the front-end actions with a transaction that is going to be made from your wallet. So I'm going to use TonKeeper, as I said. So for this deployment, I'm going to use TonKeeper as well. And now it will ask me to authorize TonKeeper to work with my local project. Great. I've done that. So it is sending a transaction. And I'm waiting for the transaction to, yes, it is asking me for a transaction. I'm confirming it. And now I'm waiting for the contract to be deployed. Awesome. Contract is deployed. Oh, it's asking me that contract was not deployed. Check your wallet transaction. But let's simply try to run it again. But we need to do one more thing, because in next chapters, we are going to create a front end for our contract. And we don't want to spend real mainnet money to actually test all these interactions that we're going to work with. But what we want to do is we want to deploy this contract on testnet. So our contract would be available on testnet, and it would also be able to function with testnet addresses. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to change the most recent address. We don't really care. It can just stay the same, or I can just put a new address. And also, I'm going to put the owner of the address as the test wallet that I have on my phone right now. So basically, I'm going to change the initial state. So this deployment address will be different. And also it will be on the testnet, of course. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to try to deploy the contract to testnet with the new addresses. And this is like a step of preparation for the next chapter where we're going to create front end for it. So what I'm going to do, as you remember, yarn blueprint run. I'm choosing testnet. I'm choosing the TonHub wallet just like we did with other deployments. And now I need to scan the QR code to open the testnet app sandbox, which is just a testnet version of TonHub. It is going to ask me for a transaction confirmation now. I'm confirming the transaction. And I would expect my contract to be deployed on testnet now. Let's wait for it. Exactly. So we can see that the contract is deployed on testnet. We can just find this address in the Explorer. Let's head to the test TonScan. Yes. We don't need to verify it here just because we are going to use it for testing mostly. And this address of this contract, this is something that we are going to need in the next lessons. So you need to save it. And once you come to the next lessons, we should actually be able to build a front end for this address. So I'm going to see you soon, and I'm very excited about what we're going to do next.